We've got special work to do, you and me. Hi, everybody. This is Jim Martin, winner of the costume contest, and you are listening to Elm Street Radio.
Hola, bonjour, welcome to prime time, bitch. Hey there, Nightmare on Elm Street fans. Deandra here, and welcome to this episode of Elm Street Radio. Paige is working tonight and unfortunately cannot join us, but you're in luck. I'm not going to be talking to myself. I have a special guest, Jim Martin, the winner of the Elm Street Radio costume contest, aka Freddy Krueger. The costume contest was held at the end of last month. The winner receives a full episode of Elm Street Radio, so that is what we are talking to Jim about today. And then two runners-up, Kristen, who was Amanda Krueger, and Brittany, who was Taryn White, will have half episodes of Elm Street Radio. And I'm just excited to talk to everybody because first off, everybody who participated in the Elm Street Radio costume contest has incredible costumes. If there's one thing I know about Elm Street fans, it's that we all put our heart and souls into the costumes that we create. And no pun intended with the soul aspect when it comes to A Nightmare on Elm Street. But thank you all so much for taking the time to submit. And thank you to everyone for putting all the time and effort that you have into the costumes because they're magnificent, truly, truly magnificent. You know, as I've gotten older and been to conventions, I love to see the people that I've watched in the films, but ultimately my favorite aspect about them has been talking to other A Nightmare on Elm Street fans. Because yeah, A Nightmare on Elm Street has affected me personally, but it's affected everybody differently. Everybody has some kind of takeaway. Everybody started as a fan in a different way. They've evolved as a fan in a different way. They've had different interactions, magic. Being a fan is truly magic, and it's the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And from looking at the things that Jim has posted, I could tell that he is a die-hard A Nightmare on Elm Street fan, and I can't wait to find out what his story is. I can't wait to talk to him about his costume, and I just can't wait to connect with another one of my fellow Fred heads. So, ladies and gentlemen, boils and ghouls, piggies, please welcome to Elm Street Radio, Jim Martin.
Go ahead, Jesse. Try it on for size. Kill for me.
Hey, Elm Street fans, and we are here with Jim. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. It is super exciting to have you here. So your name is Jim Martin, right? Am I saying that correctly?
Yep, totally right.
Awesome. So you won the Elm Street Radio costume contest. How long have you been dressing as Freddy?
That's the funny thing is I never really did it, if you would call it professionally, up until just this last year. I always dressed up for the neighborhood kids around Halloween, and I've only had that mask for, I want to say 2 or 3 years now. But this year I actually started working at a haunted house as the Freddy character, and one thing led to another, and then I got asked to do that modeling shoot that the picture came from.
Oh, the modeling shoot? Who did you do it for? Was it for a particular purpose, or was it just kind of like, hey, your costume is awesome and we want to shoot you as Freddy?
It's kind of a mix. I used to work at Blockbuster, and I had a coworker. Her name was Dawn, and we've stayed friends since the company died. And her daughter is just getting into modeling now, and she's like 14 years old. And they wanted to do something for a portfolio dealing with horror. And they had seen my posts about working at it's called the Haunted Catacombs up here in Buffalo, New York. And they were laughing because I was just telling silly stories about the people I'd scare and what I would do. And they saw the picture of the costume and they said, "Would you mind doing it?" And I was like, "No, not at all." Even though I was completely nervous. I'd never done a modeling shoot. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to stand wrong and I'm going to ruin all your pictures." But it ended up being great. The area was like this art studio. It's something I've never been to before, yet I've lived in this town the whole time. And they call it Studio Kaiju in North Tonawanda. And I was like, the name is amazing. I have to go. And and it was great because it was just a very low key thing. It was Becca Rose, who is the model, and her brother Thomas was there, and then Dawn, and then just the photographers, Rich Bilson and Joe Reboy. And it was great. They couldn't have been nicer to me. And the pictures turned out amazing. The one that I sent in was just one of them. And my buddy Jay, that's his favorite one, because he's like, the girl looks so innocent, has no idea what's coming, and there's you behind her. And that picture was a fluke picture. That wasn't one of the ones that they were really taking. It was just a test, and that's why she's smiling.
Oh, because it looks like she's in the middle of like a sleepover talking to her friends, but like there's probably some like people are falling asleep, and so somehow Freddy's managed to come behind her and she doesn't even know it, and that's what makes it look so cool.
Yeah, that's why I picked it, because it was, for me, the most like the movies without having to be staged to be like the movie. It's just, hey, you're having fun and everything's great. Don't turn around. It's going to end badly for you.
Yeah. So those are super, super neat. And I also happened to notice, because I did a little bit of creeping, that your cover photo is a painting. Now, who did that? Was that Lee Howard?
Yeah, it was.
Knew it.
Lee is absolutely incredible, and you got a good eye. I came up with this idea a while ago, and I wanted to surprise my wife with a family portrait, but our type of family portrait, because we're very big into movies and shows and stuff like that.
Awesome.
And my sons, though the Captain America for Connor and Incredible Hulk for Roland, those were their favorite characters. And everyone knows who my favorite character is. And
gee, I wonder.
Yeah, it's been a lifelong obsession. And then my wife was made to look like Daenerys from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And that painting is actually from a photograph that we took up. My family has some land outside of Strikersville, and the whole background was like trees and blue sky. And I sent it to Lee, and I was like, hey, let me know what you can do with it. And I got the most amazing Christmas present I've ever been able to give. And I thank Lee all the time for it, and I always give him credit.
I love Lee. I've known Lee for quite some time, and he is so amazingly talented between his art and the bears that he does, which,
Oh, yeah.
If anybody, gosh, I hope we don't lose listeners because of this, but I'm going to say it anyway, but Lee's, out of all the scary bears that I've ever seen, are the best. No contest. No offense, everybody does a good job with their bears, but I really, really, really love Lee's bears. They are unlike anything I've ever seen, and unfortunately I've never seen them in person, but they look amazing.
You're missing out. They're absolutely incredible. I own one. And I was lucky enough to be able to go up to Canada and hang out with Lee at a convention just a few weeks ago, actually. And he was selling them there. So I got to see just this menagerie of decrepit bears, and it was awesome.
So that's one really cool thing about the Nightmare community, is that you meet people from all over. So like Lee, for example, how did you happen across paths with him? And for anybody who doesn't know, Lee Howard, he's done a lot for Mark Patton. He has his Quiet Room Bears, which the Quiet Room, oh gee, I wonder where that came from. And he's a huge Nightmare fan. So Jim, how did you get into contact with Lee?
Through Mark, oddly enough, that you would bring up Mark. Mark and I have become very close over the years. And when he was filming the Scream Queen documentary, he had sent me an email asking if I wanted to be a part of it. And I 100% yes. And, I'm sure a little bit later we'll get into how my love of Nightmare started, but he's a big part of it. And I live in Buffalo, New York. The film was being filmed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I had two 2-year-old twins at the time. And my wife, being the amazing woman she is, was totally down with us taking a family vacation. We drove down there.
Oh, wow.
And it was great. It was absolutely great. And we, got to talking, did all this, and I saw the cover art that they wanted to do for the movie. And if anybody hasn't seen the cover art, it's Freddy's glove holding the tiara and like blood dripping down, and just looks absolutely incredible. And they talked a lot about it during the Kickstarter, and I got to know who Lee was through that. And then slowly but surely, after buying his art, talking to him online via Messenger, we became very good friends. And it's like you said, it's amazing that this film series about pretty much friendships and things being destroyed and, people losing their lives has brought me closer to more people than I can name off the top of my head.
Death is such a unifying thing, especially when it comes to Freddy. But like at the same time, I mean, when you think about it, the characters in the Nightmare films, they really do come together because of Freddy. So it's almost poetic.
If only they would come together a little sooner in the movies.
Yeah.
It's always near the end that they're like, oh, maybe we should team up and
well,
help
darn
each other.
it. Maybe we should have listened to Kristen. But yeah, so that was my next question. How did you get into A Nightmare on Elm Street?
It was a punishment that backfired on my poor mother.
Oh my God.
I was 5 years old, and I grew up around a bunch of older kids, and all they would talk about was Freddy. We used to actually play a game in the street where one of us was Freddy and would have to get everybody else. And it was basically like tag, only, you're dying. Luckily, not for real, because that would have been horrible.
Yeah, that would have been awful.
Like, I'm the one who made it, everybody. Sorry, families. But I really wanted to know who Freddy was. I was tired of just hearing about it. And I begged my mother to the point of just exhaustion for her. And she came home with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 and said, okay, you're going to sit here. And it was in the living room with the old TV that you have to sit on the floor because it's just so heavy and surrounded by wood. It can't go on anything else. And she made me sit in front of the TV, turned off all the lights, said, you're going to watch it by yourself. I'm not going to be here to help you. I never want to hear about this again. And she left the room and went upstairs. And I'm 5 years old alone in the bottom of this house. And Nightmare on Elm Street 2 starts, and I'm terrified. Absolutely just out of my mind terrified. The soundtrack, Freddy, seeing this guy, Jesse, just terrified to go to sleep and doesn't know what's real and what's not. And I was crying. I'm like, oh God, this isn't okay. But then one of my favorite memories is when it was over, I hit stop, I hit rewind, and I watched it again.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, it hooked me pretty good.
It's funny that your mom said that she doesn't want to hear about it again because that really, it wasn't like, Mom, I actually didn't mind that movie. It was more like, Mom, you have no idea what you just started.
It opened Pandora's box in a huge way. I mean, like, I was the only kid in the neighborhood who had that old Freddy plastic smock costume with the plastic mask.
Oh my God, really?
Oh, so many looks. I got so many looks, and I'm sure my mother had a few. Like, hey, what are you doing? Do we need to call the authorities about this? Is this going to be normal?
Yeah.
It all worked out in the end.
Yeah, it definitely did. So then Mark Patton is one of those, you said you connected with him, and of course he was in the first Nightmare movie that you watched. And so what was that like, meeting Mark Patton for you and seeing all these Nightmare stars in person, and like meeting Robert Englund, because your profile pictures is you with a really sweet Freddy tattoo. I mean, what is it like for you, like when you first when you first went to a convention? Who was the first Nightmare star you met? What was your reaction? And then what was your reaction meeting Mark Patton and meeting Robert Englund?
Yeah, my first convention ever was in Brooklyn, New York, and it was a Fangoria convention. And I wish I could remember the exact year. I want to say it might have been like 2002, 2003.
Wow.
And yeah,
Wow.
it's a while ago. And I was working at Blockbuster at the time, and my coworker, and at the time we had become friends, and now we're very, very good friends. His name's Tom Virtuoso. Best last name in the biz, because it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But we saw in a Fangoria magazine that was being sold in Blockbuster, they just started to carry it, and we knew that no one was going to buy it, so we were buying them and reading them. And Robert Englund was going to be the guest, and we looked at each other, and it was like out of a movie. We're like, so we're going, and no one's going to stop us. And we flew out, and meeting Robert the first time, I probably just was a giddy little kid. Like I can't even remember what I said to him. I might have said my name. I probably said it wrong. It was just mind blowing, because it was one of those things of life goal achieved. I grew up with this, and this is amazing. And it was cool because I actually saw him a couple times throughout the show. As we were walking to our bus, because we flew in but took a bus home. It was very strange. We were stuck in a rainstorm, and all of a sudden here's these two figures walking towards us under a umbrella, and it was Robert and Nancy. And it was amazing because like he remembered talking to me before, and like I had wrote him a letter because I'm such a stupid person when I was that age. I was like, oh, he'll read my letter.
He did though. He did. That's the thing. He did.
He did that. And it was funny because he picked me out of a crowd as he was walking out at one point and said, I have your letter on me. I'm reading it tonight. And I probably did a high girlish squee as soon as he walked away, and just had so many like people looking at me. But that was the first one. And then I was hooked. I had to go to more. And I've met so many amazing people from the Nightmare films. And meeting Mark, though, it was like a full circle moment. It was 2010. And it was just when he started coming back out into the public eye. And I saw that he was going to be at a convention with Kim. And I was like, I have to go. And this is the movie that started it all. And it was in Florida, and I flew down for it, and I just absolutely beelined for his table. And it was funny because I know I said like some stupid joke about like, you guys were the ones that started it all, and now thousands upon thousands of dollars later, here I am. And it was something stupid like, okay, now who's going to pay me back? And he got a laugh out of it, and I got a laugh. But then it was like he was a little shy. He asked me, do I know what Facebook is? And that was just adorable. And I was like, yeah. And he said, send me a friend request. And never in a million years did I think he would accept it. And he did. And the rest is history. We just started talking a lot. And, he gave me one of the best compliments ever when he said, you started out as a fan and now you're a friend. It was amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I think the internet has really opened up so many great things, like between meeting these people that we grew up watching and meeting like some of the best friends we've ever had. And it's incredible. And I know that Mark Patton, I have said this to him, I think in his episode, and a couple of other times, that he's like the poster child for, how people should be online. Because sometimes when you interact with celebrities, they will act like they're better, or they won't respond to people, or they don't treat you like a human being. But Mark Patton really treats everybody like family, like a human being, like a good friend. So if he says that you're his friend, you legitimately are his friend, and he's there for you, and he's kind, and he is just one of the most beautiful souls that I've ever crossed paths with.
Oh, I couldn't say it any better myself. I mean, I would say it if I thought he was listening, if I didn't think he was listening. I mean, he is just amazing. And one story I love to tell about the man, Mark Patton, not the Nightmare guy, not this, is he actually shares a birthday with my sons. They were born on the same day. And as I'm sitting in the hospital waiting for my sons to be born, Mark messaged me and basically said, stay calm. Everything's going to be okay. Let me know when everything's done. And that just floored me. Absolutely floored me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a real level of care right there. That's definitely Mark
amazing.
Patton. I remember one time I was at a convention and I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off because usually I'm doing something at a convention. And he walked by me. I think we were on our way to dinner and he was just outside doing something. And he said, wow, you've grown up. And he's always said that. And it's amazing for him to, say something like that. Like, it's been amazing to see you grow up. It's just another one of those moments where you're like, it's not even like, oh wow, this is Mark Patton, the actor. It's more like somebody has actually, it's kind of like a compliment. Like somebody is seeing me and they're proud of me. And I'm not sure if everybody in the horror community is like this, but from a lot of the people that I've spoken to, and no person is without their own personal trials or their own personal Freddys, but when you really have a legitimate connection with somebody, I mean, it can sometimes make you cry because it just is so rare to see something like that. And that's something that I think Mark Patton really brings to a lot of his friends, is that genuine care.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, for somebody who, and I'm not going to give spoilers away for his movie, but for somebody who went through what he went through to still be as genuine and as kind, that's just next level stuff. I mean, he's just, I could gush about him this entire interview. I really could.
Yeah. Well, we love Mark Patton, and I'm so thankful that he finally came back and he's doing all these amazing things, because I remember when we were talking about him in his interview, and he was talking about how certain conventions will invite him or he won't be invited to other conventions. But then he'll tell me, he's like, oh yeah, I've been invited to this incredible gala dinner. And I'm like, well, see, I mean, you could go to a convention and with all due respect, I mean, conventions are great, but like ballroom kind of dinner convention, like because of who you are, Mark, and how you've been an activist and how you've just been a really great person, like hell yes, you deserve all of this. And I am so happy that the universe is granting that to him. And I cannot wait for Scream Queen. Can you give us any spoilers about Scream Queen? Anything you can like bestow upon everybody?
I mean, probably not as anything that he hasn't already posted himself. I mean, I remember going down to Florida to film it. And the one thing that I really hope shows is the care of everybody involved. Like, you can tell that this is a story that they all want to tell. I do know that there's going to be something really worth seeing when it comes to the writer, David. Everyone's going to want to tune in for that part. And, I just, Robert Russler was great when he was there. Like, he was really funny during the filming. I know that they talked to Robert Englund for a very, very long time. And there's just a lot of candid moments with the rest of the cast, because the show down in Florida, it was the first Nightmare 2 reunion. It was so many people. It was, the Mark and Kim, Coach Schneider was there, and, it was just the director, and, it was just absolutely incredible. And it seemed like they hadn't missed a beat. Like, they were all very polite and very nice to each other, and they sat them all right near each other, which was great too. So, like, as I'm walking down that aisle with my wife and kids, it was like a homecoming or a reunion that I wasn't a part of, but then they made me a part of it. It was great.
Wow. That's just like so special. It's just, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be a great movie. And I know that he was really excited to show the trailer. And honestly, and this might sound weird, I think you and I have met, because where they premiered Nathan's movie.
Confession of Fred Krueger. Yeah, Horror Hound, Indy 2015.
I was there.
Oh, you know what? We probably have.
And I want to say that this happened. Were you up on stage with Mark when he went to read the bedtime story?
Yep, that was me.
I have a picture of you on stage with Mark.
Oh my gosh. See, look, small world.
That's how the community works.
Yeah, but I love Mark Patton. I mean, I honestly, and I've said this before, but if he and Heather Langenkamp, because I know he will tease her, but if they go head to head and Mark Patton's like, I'm putting my army together, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, Mark Patton, here I come.
Look, that's big words coming from you. I've seen your stuff. Okay.
I might have to. I would hope that would never happen. And if Heather ever happens to hear this, I love you, Heather, but. Mark Patton. I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm not going to go any further with that.
You hear what she's saying, Heather. We all hear it.
Her nose is probably itching. She's probably like, what? Deandra's talking crap? What? She's going to take Mark Patton's side? But, oh yeah, speaking of Heather, so you've been to that convention and you've met her. What are your thoughts on Nancy Thompson?
The character or or Heather herself?
Well, let's do on the character and then on Heather.
All right, well, I can definitely bridge the gap on that too. So I'll start with the character of Nancy. Nightmare 1 was the last one that I saw of the original series.
Talk about it.
Right. I watched them out of order because, again, I was just some kid asking for the movies. So when they came out on home video, that's really when I saw them. But I had no frame of reference of they have to be watched in order. Like for me, it was like a big cartoon. You can just watch it whenever you want and it's characters and things happen and you're fine. But I saw it was 2 was first, then 5, then 3 and 4. And I can't remember which one I saw first. I want to say it might have even been 4 and 3. Then it was Freddy's Dead. And then it was number 1. And then, of course, Wes Craven's New Nightmare when that came out. But the first one is the only one that really still hits me as a fan of film. Like the second one holds a special place, but the first one hits me, and a lot of it comes from her performance. I loved the idea that these parents weren't listening. You see that in the other movies, but in this, they're in the house. They're in the house the whole time. Yeah. They can hear her screaming. They can hear what's going on. They can see just the changes in her. I mean, the girl goes gray at one point, and the mom's still like, yeah, it's all in your head. Come on now. Like, and she plays it just so honestly. And like just the way that I would expect someone who's supposed to be in the movie, 15 years old, I would expect a 15-year-old to act like that. You don't really see that a lot in movies now. They all have funny quips. Like the one thing I hated about Freddy versus Jason was Kelly Rowland's character, like making fun of Freddy and backing up and calling him a gay slur and all this stuff. I was like, that would not happen. Like you would see this man in front of you and you would either pee yourself or run. You would not taunt him. It wouldn't happen. And she only taunts him when she's done. She's like, that's it. You're dead. Like you've killed my friend. You've killed my boyfriend. I haven't had a good night's sleep in like 8 days. We're going at it. It's over. Yeah,
Nancy's got nothing to lose. At that point, she's like, you know what? If you're going to kill me, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to take you with me.
Yeah, and you can even see it in the performance back from Robert. Like the character Freddy, he's not just being evil anymore. He's mad. He really wants to get her, and that's how he makes these mistakes. And it was great to see that. And then to bridge the gap, like they say in Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Nancy gets her strength from Heather. And you can tell that when you meet her. She is so kind and so giving. And like I've seen her both on the convention floor and then at the after parties. And my wife, Heather was the first Nightmare alum that my wife ever met. And my wife is nowhere near into the movies as much as I am, but she will tell people that Heather made her a fan of the series now.
Well, that's really sweet. Heather is, I think, a lot more like Nancy than people realize, maybe. I mean, they talk about her giving her strength, but after getting to know her over the last several years, she's so much more like Nancy than people realize. I mean, Heather is extremely strong. She puts a lot of people before herself, and
Yeah.
she sometimes lives in her own little world of Langenkamp land, and it's funny to see her go there sometimes. But Heather is a really, really wonderful person, and that is why it would kill me if her and Mark Patton ever did go to war with each other.
It would be our own personal civil war. We're just standing in the middle being like, can't you guys just be nice to
Just
each
be
other?
friends, singing Kumbaya. Yeah, but I found that to be true with a lot of people from the films. I maybe I'm having a brain fart here, but I can't think of somebody that I've met that was in any of the Nightmare films that I've really had any sort of bad interaction with. They've all been extremely nice and friendly. Maybe it's because I was going up to them and, for some of them giving them money, but even after that, just interacting with them constantly, they've been very, very nice and very welcoming. There's been some other people, but not from the Nightmare franchise that haven't been that way. And I don't know if you've had the because I know that your Skype picture is you with the cast and crew of Nightmare 2.
Yeah.
But I don't know, have you experienced something very similar, something so welcoming about the whole cast and crew of Nightmare?
Yeah. It's funny that you asked me that as I'm in my living room. I'm looking at a picture on my wall of the Nightmare 4 cast and myself. And I always think of that moment because as the young kid, Nightmare 4 was my favorite. And I think it was meant to be for a lot of the young kids. It's the MTV one. And,
Yeah.
Freddy's got his quips and he's not too scary, but he's scary enough. And the death scenes are imaginative. But when I was a kid, I wanted to be Rick Johnson. I absolutely wanted to be him. I was the only sixth grader wearing a trench coat because Rick wore one in a scene in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. And I even tried to do my hair like him. So no, I do not know what the S is that he puts in his hair. I could never find it. See, even cleaned up my language there. I'm proud of myself. But I always wanted to meet Andrus and Lisa and Dan and the rest of the cast, Brooke and Toy. And then they did a Nightmare 4 reunion. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going. And I got my picture with the cast late in the day. So earlier in the day, I'd gone to each of their tables and I got to talk with them and I got to, thank them and, say the little things. And even with Andres, I was like, I wanted to be you. And now I'm like 6'4" and he's probably looking at me like, I want to be you. And I came in for the picture and he spoke up and he said, hey, it's Jim. And I'm like looking behind me like there must be another Jim. There's no way they remember my name. And then they all said, come on, join the family. And I lost my mind. Like the picture, the smile on my face in the picture. I usually hate smiling for pictures because I just feel like I look weird. It's the most genuine smile.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Gosh darn it. All the feels. Feeling extremely. They're good people.
And it's weird too. People ask me it all the time. They're like, how are they? Like with that tone in their voice.
How are they? Like expecting them to be terrible?
Right. Like, did they try to kill you? It's like, yes, these actors tried to kill me in a crowded room with tons of witnesses. That's exactly what they tried to do. And they get almost shocked, some of them, when I tell them, like, no, these are just great, genuine people. And I've been bringing people to conventions now that have never gone. Like my friend Amy really wanted to go to one, and I was bringing her and my friend Adam, who he's my ride or die partner when it comes to a lot of these conventions. Like he drove to Chicago with me just to get the picture with Robert in the makeup. And then we drove back the next day. Like that's like next level stuff there too. And the thing that they always say afterwards is, oh my God, they are just so nice. And it just gives them a newfound appreciation for the movies and everything that goes with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. It's great to introduce people that you know to things that you love and to have people kind of just join you in it. Because I think that's one of the great things too about the conventions. I mean, I could probably walk up to, I like to walk up to people randomly and we'll be like, hi, how's it going? How's your day? And usually they're not that receptive. But you go to
Mhm.
most people at a convention, you're like, dude, I love your shirt. And they're like, oh my God, best friends. And then before you know it,
Right?
you've connected on Facebook. You're probably getting together for dinner at your next convention. And it's just like the most immediate, genuine, deep, probably lifelong connection that you can make. Would you say you've had a lot of experiences like that?
I 100% agree with you. I tell everyone who ever goes, because like people ask me, oh, where are you going? I'll say a horror convention, and it's like I just spit on them, like, oh, what? And it's like, no, trust me, these people are amazing. I always walk away saying, I never feel more at home than when I'm there. I'm surrounded by people with common
Aw.
interests, and I've never seen anybody fight, argue, make fun of anybody. I never see it. Like, you just feel so welcome, even at the after parties where people are kind of getting,
You are
tipsy.
so right
They're
about
still
that.
just like, this is what I love about Texas Chainsaw. This is what I love about Nightmare. I love you too. It's like, oh my God, like this is the best conversation ever. But the thing that you said, I can prove it. I was at a convention with my wife, my friend Adam, and I want to say my friend Amy was there too. And this was down in Florida. So we all flew down there.
You guys in Florida, that must be like your
I know. Well,
magical place.
that's where Spooky Empire was the one that we kept
Oh
going.
my gosh. Yeah. I've only
And
been there once, but it's awesome.
We loved it. We absolutely loved it. And then it's, now that I have the kids, I gotta scale back. But we all went down there, and my wife pointed at this guy, huge guy. Like, this guy's like, 6'4", muscles for days, long hair. And, she's got a thing for the long hair. She won't let me cut mine. Fine. I'm over it. But he had on a White Walker Ale t-shirt, and she loved his shirt. And I was like, oh yeah, man, like, that's really cool. And so at the after party, we see him again and his girlfriend. And just like you said, we just walked up, and my wife, her name's Amanda, she'd been drinking a little, and she just yells as loud as she can, I love your shirt. Fast forward, a year later, they flew up from Florida, stayed with us in Buffalo.
Oh my God, that's
just
awesome.
to visit. And we've gone back and forth. They've stayed at our house now, I want to say twice. And we've gone down there, and they've come to like visit family that we have down there. And it all started Jim and Amanda meeting Kurt and Cassie, and years later, we're really good friends.
That is so friggin' rad that happened to you guys. I find that a lot of people will do that. You'll just travel cross country. Like any other time, sometimes I might be like, oh geez, do I want, pardon me for being basic white girl, but do I want Chipotle? Because if I get this, it's going to be, like $9. Meanwhile, somebody that I've maybe, connected with a couple times, I'm like, I'm going to pay a couple $1,000s to go do this thing with you. And like, no regrets. Then again, we are comparing food to people, but I happen to place high value on food. but yeah, there's like that instant connection. I mean, there's nothing quite so incredible. Even like people that I've met at work, I will tell them, I don't care what they like. I'm like, if you have a convention for whatever you like, you just have to go to it once. But I will warn you that it will change your life. Because once you get there and you start talking to these people and you start connecting with people that you've seen in movies, like it's a whole different world. And it's almost like when you're in your normal life, like for me, I work with a bunch of people who are totally not into horror, like at all. And so
sorry.
Yeah, I know. Thank you very much. And it's like, it's kind of like a very square environment. Let me just put it that way. I mean, they do amazing things, and I'm a part of something that's really cool, but for the most part, it's very conservative. And so there's nobody like to share in anything with. And most of the people in my life, are not like horror fans. So like, then you go to a horror convention, and pardon me, because this is kind of weird probably, but I feel like I'm going through a vortex. And then I like
Oh,
arrive
100.
there. Yeah, you like arrive there and you're like, my people. And everyone's like, my
You feel
people.
the change the minute you
Yeah.
walk into a hotel
Yes.
or wherever it is.
Suddenly you go from being like somebody who there aren't many people like you to being like the most popular person in the room. And you're like, all these people, I could just make tons of friends from all over the world too. Like there are people everywhere that you can make friends with. And it's
Yeah.
all because of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's what I firmly believe, that films can impact somebody's life so much. And that's why it kills me when somebody says, hey, you can't like this, or you can't do this because of this, that, and the other thing. They have no idea what impact that could have on somebody's life. So for you, I know we've talked about it a lot, but like looking back at A Nightmare on Elm Street and that day that you sat down because your mom told you to watch the movie, like how really has A Nightmare on Elm Street impacted your life and really overall just changed things for you?
Honestly, more than I realize on like a daily basis. Like when I sit down and really think about it, which I have, it's pretty incredible. All the doors it pretty much has opened for me. I mean, I moved a lot as a kid. I went to 3 different high schools. I went to more elementary schools and middle schools than I can count. And the one constant that I always had was my Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And I took them everywhere I went. I could watch them wherever I go. And I would always try to find somebody in the school who dug it just a little bit. If I can get you just a little bit, then cool, we have something to talk about, and that's my in. And that being the jump off point, it really led to my nature, like trying to be friends and trying to reach out to somebody who looks like they might be kind of sitting by themselves and need somebody to come and talk to them, because that was always me. And it all just kind of stemmed from, hey, let's find a common interest and let's talk about this. And I have some lifelong friends that, I've made because I was able to kind of muster up and be like, hey, you want to be friends? Like, let's find something that we like. And, just being able to then make your dream a reality and go and talk to these people. Like when I was 5, 6, 7, no, Hollywood was this far off distant land that no one ever visited, but all the best people came from. Like that's all I ever thought. And then I heard about these conventions and I went and I'm like, oh my God, they're regular people, and they'll shake your hand and you don't turn to stone when they look you in the eye. Like it's like they're human. And since then, like I've been able just to be able to walk up to these heroes of mine. I mean, everyone from Robert Englund to George Romero to, just all these people that I'm like, this is not supposed to happen. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. This can't happen. And people now come with me to be like, hey, I'm really nervous about talking to them. Would you mind going? Because I can start the conversation up. I'm like, hey, number one, thank you so much for coming. That's how I always say it. Like, you guys came here. I want to thank you. It's not just like, here's my object. Here's my money. Sign it, monkey. Now let's go talk. I hate when I see people do that. And I always get everything personalized too, so that they know I'm here for you. Like this is not something I'm going to go and sell on eBay or do something ridiculous with. Like everything I get, I don't care if it's a DVD or a poster, it's personalized. This is mine. And now I'm doing it for my kids. My kids are getting into it again, 5 years old. It's like a magic circle here. They have autographed already. Mark gives them something every single time I see him. Robert has signed for him. A couple of the guys who've played Jason have signed for him. And they don't watch them because I haven't let them watch anything unedited yet. But my son Connor, who's little mini me, wants to see it. And I said, which one do you want to start with? And he goes, the Uncle Mark movie. I was like, okay. Like that's what we'll start with, just like me. And that's amazing. And the other thing would be just it's like a source of strength in a lot of ways for me. I mean, like I'm not going to get all morose here, but like sometimes life can kick you in the butt. And like I didn't have the best upbringing. Parents tried what they did, but they were, I come from a divorced house. So the strong male figure in my life was on weekends. And the other one was, Freddy-esque, we'll put it that way. And then, getting older, like at one point I was homeless for a few months and I was staying with my friend and, I'm walking to work, like 3-hour walk just to get to a part-time job. But that's what I did. And I always had it in the back of my mind, like, you're going to make it through it. You're going to make it through it. You got your movies, you got your this, you got your that. It was just always that sense of it's going to get better. And then it was right around the time I got my apartment. That's when we found out about the convention. And it's those things that always spark for me. It's like, if you pay close enough attention and you really try, these amazing things are waiting right around the corner. You just have to be brave enough to grab them. And I know I sound like the infomercial when I say it, but I truly believe it.
No, it's very inspirational. It really is. And I think more people should be fans of things, because maybe that's what people are missing in their life. Love. And I think fandom can help with that a little bit. We just had a hippie moment.
Totally did. There's that kumbaya again.
New
ringtone, here it comes.
Son of a gun. So, do you think you'll ever play Freddy again? Well, I know you work for the haunt. So, like, do you cosplay Freddy at conventions? Like, are you gonna maybe
I never have.
take that on? Possibility.
People have asked me if I would. The only thing that has ever stopped me is a lot of the conventions that come around Buffalo, because they're now starting to come to Buffalo, which is fantastic, because it's like, all right, I can drive.
Right down the road.
But they always come when it's warm. And that Freddy mask, it's hot. Yeah. And walking around in the convention, I'd be like, oh, God, like, you would definitely get Freddy out of me, because I would probably be a little bitter after about an hour. But I love doing it. Like, when I did it for the kids in the neighborhood, my neighborhood does Halloween the night before. It does it on the 30th. Okay. And I guess it's been doing it for like 30 years. And I try to deck out my house the best I can. Like, I get stuff outside. I play the Freddy music. I bought lights last year that make it look like the house is on fire. Like, that's all awesome. Sorts of cool.
You go full out.
It's my holiday. I just love it. I've always loved Halloween. And when I dressed up as Freddy, and the realistic Freddy, like, that mask is absolutely legit. James Darkride.
Yeah, I knew it. Is that it looks like in your picture, I was trying to see it. It looked like from the way it was, maybe I didn't get a good enough look, but it looked like it was a part 4, or is it the part 3?
You got it.
Part 4. Yes.
Yes, look at you.
He does do such incredible work. He is the best when it comes to masks.
He is. And it fits so perfectly, like the eyelids and the lips, like everything is realistic. And I got the glove from I asked Anders Ericsson to make me a custom glove, because I'm missing the middle finger on my right hand, the Freddy hand. Oh. And so every time I ever wore a glove, I make a fist, I'm flipping off half the country, and I feel bad about it. So I try not to do that. Oh. And I just wanted something where if I did the flick, it would work. And he jury rigged it with springs and this other thing in there. Wow. Where I could do that. And it was great. It did exactly what I needed to do. And so I'll get kids coming up, and some of them are scared. Some of them have no idea who Freddy is. And I'm really hoping that I'm like the gateway to that now. And then other ones are just down with it. And people ask me to take pictures. I was asked to hold a baby 2 years ago, and I felt so weird.
Oh,
like,
wow.
This kid's like 6 months old. Are you sure? Yeah, it'll be cool. All right. Don't send me the bill when they start going to therapy. And I loved it. I love the feeling, because I just really like kids. It's probably from my upbringing. Like, I just love that idea that they could get so into something and they're not asking for anything back. It's just the smile does it. Like, I'll stand out in the rain and they'll come up, and I'm fine with it. So I've thought about doing it for conventions, but it's like, I almost don't want to take away from anybody else's experience. Like, I guess I feel almost selfish in a way that I don't want to lose out on seeing the people. Like, I don't want to walk up to like Robert in full Freddy get up and be like, hey, it's me, Jim. You can't tell. But at the same time, I don't want them to get like, hey, there's Robert over there, but he's not dressed up as Freddy. There's Freddy over there. And now I'm confused and I don't know if I'm having as good a time as it's a weird mental block that I have.
Huh. That's really interesting way to look at it, because I've seen it. Because I mean, when I've cosplayed as Nancy, I mean, I've had people that have been like, wait a second. But actually, I see that you were at Spooky Empire in 2014. That was the Spooky Empire that, at least it looks like that from the outfits that they're wearing, and it's weird that I know that, but it's only because I have a photo of them in those outfits. But were you there?
I want to say I was there
because
I was there in
the Once
2014.
Upon a Time people there.
Yes, I was there. Yeah,
I was there too.
I took my wife because I think that was a May show, and I took her for Mother's Day because Once Upon a Time was her favorite show at the time, and I surprised her with the picture. She got a cast picture.
Oh. Yep, because I saw the background. I was like, oh, hey. But, that's, and the reason my point of that is that, I had people coming up to me when I was in that costume, and people were congratulating me on the success of Once Upon a Time because I was dressed as Regina. And I had people it was the most terrifying experience of my life. I will say that. I've dressed up like several people, but that one I had the most extreme reactions from people. But I guess I could see how it would be like that, but it's almost like, to me, like, going to Disney World and seeing like the princesses. Like that's why I was there in that May, because I worked in Disney at the time. And so I was like, how convenient. But, I would see people, I would see people and I'd be like, I know this girl is probably my age. And I know for a fact that, we're both cast members, but at the same time, it was like, I want to get a picture with Ariel. But I could see where you're coming from at that. But I have a couple people I know who dress as Freddy, and they've said that it's been really hot in those masks. And like then you have a sweater and long pants on top of it, and some of them have like the fake latex hand. So you're just covered. You have that one too. I thought I saw that in your picture. Yeah. So you're just like all bundled up, and it's like 90 degrees outside.
Right. Like, I don't think I could ever do it in Florida. I have enough people asking me, and honestly, you're kind of making me really think about it. It's like, maybe because a couple of the cons up here it's one of these weird things again, where it's like, over the span of like a couple of weeks, things just started really falling into place. Like I got the job at the Catacombs, and then that led me to having, help out with that modeling shoot. And then, I got to go up and see Lee, and a con up here, Nickel City Comic Con, reached out to me and said, can you help us get some horror people? We want to do a horror con with our next con. And we were told you might know some of these people. And I went to high school with a guy who was friends with the owner. And I was like, oh, God, like this is happening. So like I've given him Mark's information. I've told him how to contact Robert, because for some reason everyone thinks Robert and I are really good friends. No, I've just met him a bunch. He probably remembers my name. He knows my kids because they gave him birthday cards. But like that's about as far as we go. Like he's not coming to my house for tea. But it was amazing that they would reach out. And if we do get nightmare people, I'll say it now, I will dress up. Well,
I hope somebody takes some pictures for that, because I think that is so darn cool. Well, I know that you have been, it's late, and I don't want to keep you too long, but I am so thankful that you took time out of your busy day to come here and to share with us your story as a Nightmare fan. It has been so much fun, Jim, and I appreciate it. So are you open to people adding you on Facebook at all?
Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
100%. Yeah, if anybody does, I have the most generic name I know. So it would be just, as you said, it's a picture of Robert and I with me showing off the tattoo, which was a labor of love. You can't really tell so well in the picture because it wasn't completely done, but the tattoo is Freddy holding Jason's mask like a trophy.
Oh, cool.
And it's amazing. And yeah, I mean, anybody who likes to talk Nightmare, doesn't mind me posting pictures of my kids, by all means, feel free. And, speaking of like Facebook, like you said it yourself, what the internet does, this whole contest was amazing. Like I'd been so excited to be a part of it, and everybody's pictures, like I would kick myself if I didn't take this time to say that everybody who tried out for this contest, your pictures were incredible. The Amanda Kruger one, I knew that was going to be my competition when I went into it, and we were neck and neck for so long, and it was amazing. And same with the Taryn picture, like you're just out of this world for the pictures, guys. And I can't thank everybody enough who voted for me, who shared. My friends Caitlin who put it up, and Kurt, and so many other people that they're going to kill me because I didn't remember to mention them, but like you all know who you are.
Is this where I bring in the Oscar music? Like, I
know, please do.
I'm just kidding.
They liked me. They really liked me.
But congratulations on the contest. But that's one thing about Nightmare fans, for sure. They don't half-ass costumes. Everybody goes full out, and there's a lot of Nightmare cosplayers out there, and they've done some pretty bitchin' costumes, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Maybe that's what was stopping me for so long. Like, I'm not as good as those. I'm going to be the tallest Freddy there. Like, no one will buy it. That should be Jason.
Maybe this will be your little kick in the butt. Like, Jim, you can do it.
I'll just walk around on my knees so it's somewhat more Robert's height.
Robert would be like, my people.
Yeah, we'll just run away together and be like, yeah, I'm short now too, and it's like you tower over me in every other way, but I'm at least tall in this regard.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jim. And then I'll go ahead, and if it's okay with you, I will link your profile in the description below so that everybody can easily find you and connect and talk Nightmare and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would welcome it.
Well, take care, Jim. And hey, we'll probably end up crossing paths again at one point or another, for sure.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah, I would really look forward to that. That'd be fun.
Awesome. Well, any final thoughts, Jim? Anything you wanna throw out there before you go off and visit your pal Freddy?
Yeah, maybe I will pop in one tonight just to kind of cement the fact. Really, I would just kind of say something that you said. Find something that you're a fan of, give it 100%, and never think that you won't be able to do more with it. 5-year-old me never thought I would meet these people, and now 35-year-old me is friends with some of these people, and that is completely mind-blowing.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jim. Thank you so much for being with us on Elm Street Radio.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, too.